X podcast. Hey Colin, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Greg? We'll just put in cricket noises here since Greg is in Bellingham, where apparently internet doesn't exist.
He
So
was swallowed by a monster truck. R.I.P. He
yeah.
died as he lived. A grave digger.
As this we tried to think of a monster truck, and I just couldn't think of any of them.
Yeah.
Was it?
What's the other one? Wasn't there one other big one when we were
Is
kids?
Bigfoot, right? There
Oh
was the
yeah,
big
yeah,
blue one,
yeah,
which I think was
yeah,
Bigfoot, but I'm not
yeah.
entirely sure. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a car. It's got wheels.
I
Get
guess.
it together.
I guess wheels can be feet.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
If you think about wheels are the feet of cars.
Yeah. Anyway, he got struck by one, so
Yeah, he's dead now. Somebody painted a tunnel on Greg's t-shirt and a Tesla ran him over.
yeah,
Oh.
the person was watching TV and like taking a nap, so they couldn't intervene.
Yeah, if you're missing out, these are all little inside jokes from our Patreon episode this week, which is hilariously about technology and a technological disaster from start to finish.
It's
So.
like Westworld, the episode.
Well, Colin, it's been a good week.
Yes, it.
And you had posted this tweet. I know it's a good week because this tweet came out today, and I have read it 15 times, and I still don't really feel like I have a firm grip on what it's saying.
It's quite an incantation.
So this is from some guy, Eric Weinstein. I don't know who the fuck this guy is. He's a blue check.
Yeah, he's some loser.
Math guy, MD at Teal Capital, and host of the Portal at something. So all around cool guy. And he had this absolutely cryptic tweet that I think is, as we get closer to the election, we're just gonna learn more. This is like a Lovecraft story, right? We're just gonna be driven mad by it.
The cosmic horror.
As we peel back the layers, which it begins with incons, and I want to stress this is spelled INCONS with both the I and the C capitalized. Incons are a force this year. Involuntary conservatives are real. As I've told you, the failure to condemn Mayor Jenny Durkin and Mayor Ted Wheeler, acknowledge Antifa, admit to media bias, or to level about cognitive issues, etc., in a near octogenarian has created the never Trump voter.
Ooh.
What does this mean, Colin? I keep reading it.
Yeah, it's like a Rorschach or like those magic eye things that used to exist when we were kids. You just have to stare at it for a long time, like Ethan Suplee and Mallrats.
What's he doing? Oh, well, if you stare at this poster for a few seconds, a hidden picture appears.
Can we do it, please? Please?
All right, go ahead. But hurry, the Easter Bunny's waiting.
Wow, it's a schooner.
You dumb bastard. It's not a schooner, it's a sailboat.
A schooner is a sailboat, stupid head.
You know what? There is no Easter Bunny! Over there, that's just a guy in a suit!
I think what he's saying is
it's a sailboat.
Basically, hey, I'm gonna vote for Trump. I always was, but here are the reasons I'm gonna pretend that are holding me back from not doing so.
Yeah, I mean, first off, yeah, he is revealing that there, as everybody who has half a brain has already known, there is no such thing as a never Trump Republican. Every Republican is going to vote for Trump, just like they did last time, and just like they would do 50 elections, into the future if it were an option. So, I think that's step one. I mean, the funny part is that one, that his thing about cognitive issues, where he mentions that, is right where the tweet really falls apart and becomes like impossible to understand. But I do love this idea that his argument is that Democrats haven't pivoted far enough to the right,
Mm.
which hilariously came out the same. I think literally the Politico article that Joe Biden is going to put a bunch of Republicans in his administration came
That
out today.
owns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it came out today.
Meg Whitman, fresh out of running Quibi into the ground.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And it'd be in his cabinet.
Yeah, famous dullard Meg Whitman.
Kasich.
Giant piece of shit, John Kasich, like human garbage, John Kasich. But yeah, I mean, which again, everybody who has been following this in any real way knew was going to happen with Biden.
Right.
But I mean, this is funny, and it does show the like completely ridiculous like fretting that Democrats do and libs do over this idea of like, how are we going to win away those Republican votes? And I think this is showing you're not. So
Yeah.
stop talking about it. Like, give up. Like literally the only way this guy is voting Democrat is if Trump runs as a Democrat on both tickets,
Yeah, this every time I've read this online, it just feels like something people are saying to give them cover for doing, like I said, the thing that they had always planned to do.
Yeah.
But they don't want to, but they have to.
Yeah, because I mean, there is that group of conservatives who probably like live in an urban area, and while they like everything about Donald Trump and they like every one of his policies, they just find him like personally a little gauche. Like that's it. Like the end. Like that's the only thing they can about. But I do love the failure to condemn Jenny Durkin and Ted Wheeler.
Yeah, a little Seattle shout out there.
Yeah, and I think on the left, we would also agree that there has been a failure to condemn Jenny Durkin and Ted Wheeler. I love that these guys think that, like, Jenny Durkin is the fucking, they're the queen and king of Antifa. Like, it's really funny. But, yeah, just wonderful. I love, too, that he's responding to another tweet from @ConceptualJames. Basically, where he takes an excerpt, I think he says from the New Republic, right?
Yeah, yep.
But it's some sort of pull quote from a New Republic article saying the American left should work toward abolishing the Constitution someday, either for a new document or a new democratic order without a written constitution. And one, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And two, if I imagine in the in their conception of the American left being the Democratic Party, never gonna fucking happen.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I mean, it would be way more likely that victims of school shootings come back to life than...
Yeah, basically, yeah. We're going to raise the dead for Joe Biden re-election campaign before this fucking happens. But, maybe there is some truth to it, because we also, from a very reliable news source, Q13 here in Seattle, we had a story that there's apparently a record number of police officers quitting Seattle PD.
No.
Community leaders say public safety is at risk in Seattle. I'm going to go ahead and say that no, they're not.
Yeah, people that live in the exurbs are saying...
Oh, by the way, I had the community leader they mean is the person who represents businesses in Soto. Community leaders at the Chamber of Commerce say.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm just concerned there's going to be no more blue to back, Brian. What am I going to... I'm going to back the blue.
I mean, who am I going to thank for their service as I walk down the streets of Seattle? Yeah, the complaint is that 39 police officers left the department in the month of September.
Hell yeah.
And so hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good start.
Yeah.
But also hilariously, this has happened before, but somebody posted some of so just like any job, when you leave being a cop, you have to fill out HR paperwork, and part of the paperwork asks you why you're leaving. And so somebody posted the why they're leaving bits, which this has been done before, but I want to read a couple of them here. The first one, which is written in I would make fun of the handwriting in the scroll, but literally this is exactly how I write. Like, I could have written this actually. I refuse to work for this socialist city council and their political agenda. This agenda sacrifices the health and well-being of the officers and ultimately will destroy the fabric of this once fine city.
Got him.
Yeah. First off, the city was never fine.
Yeah.
If the movie Class of 1999 told me anything, 20 years ago, this place was a hellhole.
Well, yeah, we have bridges falling apart, piers falling into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
You said electrical poles were just like snapping in half.
Yeah, one right next to my house. But and there's like thousands of them. We actually had covered that in an episode of Seattle Sucks, that there was like this report that there was something like 6,000 electric poles or something like that they thought like were basically rotten and need to be replaced, but had no money to do it. And we're just like, nah. We'll replace them as they collapse onto cars and houses and people.
Well, all the money that we might use to do that, we're paying to have cops, I guess.
Yeah. The city that has 3 of the richest human beings that have ever lived on this planet has piers that are literally collapsing into the water with the construction workers on them. But yeah, the real problem is not enough cops. That, and I love to sacrifices the health and well-being of the officers, right? Which I love that he doesn't put the other side of that, which is sacrifices the health and well-being of the officers for the health and well-being of the vast majority of people in the city. If they can't keep us 30 alive. So they had another person who came in, and theirs was I like this one because this guy typed it up, so this guy's taking it real seriously.
Fancy.
He wanted to make sure that his criticism got heard. I would say the daily criticism of the city council and the thought that we were a, quote, necessary evil, as one supervisor once said. Also, I think OPA's willingness to take any and all complaints, even anonymous, and then take 6 months to render a decision made it hard sometimes to enjoy working here. So people are allowed to complain when I beat them in the streets. It takes all the fun out of my job.
Yeah, and when it's an anonymous, we can't even retaliate.
Yeah, basically, right. Yeah, department legendary for like retaliating against fucking people who file complaints is mad that people can file anonymously, as if the allowing them to file anonymously had nothing to do with their behavior, right?
Yeah.
Although I love the OPA taking 6 months to render a decision, because I mean this is like total cop brain. Because he's so fucking stupid, he doesn't realize that the OPA is dragging their feet for him.
Yeah,
like they're specifically dragging their feet to make sure that it exceeds the contract deadline for a complaint. And he's like, "Oh, they don't even get it done like that week." And it's like, you moron, you would get punished if they did it that week, idiot. You would have no right to appeal. Literally every appeal to an OPA decision is about how long it took the OPA to do it, right? So it's like it's a built-in get out of jail free card, and he's complaining about it.
God
just
damn.
Fucking, I mean, these are the dumbest fucking people in the city. I mean, just the dumbest fucking assholes. But yeah, holy shit. But look, we clown on the city council a lot and stuff like that, but I am glad that even their sort of tepid, decrease in the Seattle PD budget has got these, guys all up in a tizzy, which is very funny.
That rocks.
Yeah. I like this one guy though, they asked him what he enjoyed least about working at SPD, and he just wrote city has changed. And that's a fact for all time.
City has changed. Oh.
Words as true today as they will be in 10 years.
God. Wow. Thank you for that actionable feedback. Officer Krupke.
Yeah. So yeah, a real treat. But one ex-Seattle PD cop is maybe doing a little better than the others. And Carmen Best, it was announced on Twitter, I believe on Friday, He's got a job at King 5 as a
Oh,
consultant.
hell yeah.
Working for NBC, working for the the Peacock, working for the Peacock, just like Jerry Seinfeld, just like all our friends, Kramer, Seinfeld, George, Elaine, and Carmen, all
Yeah,
together.
Matt Lauer. Is he one of our favorites?
Yeah. So I can't wait to hear the wonderful consulting work that she's going to do for King 5. I'm sure it's going to be very enlightening.
She's going to be their Mary Kay Letourneau correspondent, I think, actually, in a surprise twist.
Honestly, I wish that instead of doing this, I mean, if she wanted to have some sort of turn that would make her, maybe get her out of the villain doghouse, would be if she just started one of those like those really intense like true crime podcasts that's just about Mary Kay Letourneau. Like, and why she has a weird fixation with her. You know?
Hell yeah, I'd listen.
Yeah, I honestly would. I would make an appointment, listening. So, Colin, I wanted to raise with you, me and Greg, when Carmen Best said she was going to quit, we speculated about, which convention, the Republican convention or Democratic convention, would try and get her as a guest.
Yeah.
Neither did. We then speculated, because we both assumed she was going to take a media job.
Yeah.
I laughed and said it would be very funny if she became mayor. But I think we both knew that wasn't in the cards, and that a media job was most likely. And we're both like, she'll probably be on Fox News. But Greg was like, no, she'll definitely be on MSNBC as their police correspondent. And it turned out we were like right but wrong, right? She got a media consultancy job, but not a good one. She got one here. Where did we go wrong, Colin?
Honestly, I had no idea where she would land. So to me, this is all surprising. But I think, like Jenny Durkin, and I guess like us, we have such a false sense of our place in the universe as Seattleites. I mean, basically, we're all just peons that work in the Amazon mines, like at the end of the day, to everyone outside of Washington State, I think. So who cares who the mayor is or who the police chief was?
Yeah, I feel like, despite having a show called Seattle Sucks where we clown on the city all the time, even we bought into the hype that anybody outside of the state cares about this dumb city. And I think what we're finding is the answer to that is a clear no. No, they don't. They don't give one shit. Probably not one person called Carmen Best about a media job other than King. Probably King 5 and Q13 probably fought it over. Yeah. But like, or Como, but like, that's literally it. Nobody else gave one shit. It's kind of like when I was a kid, I remember the Mariners existing because King Griffey Jr. was on the team.
Sure.
But like, to me, they weren't even in a division. They were in the American League. There's like a team that kind of existed that you would hear about every once in a while.
Yeah.
Because that's how like foreign a place Seattle, and how like not just foreign, but like unimportant. Not foreign like Paris, which you have to care about. Foreign is in like
a
Oslo.
backwater.
Yeah. Foreign like Reykjavik. You know its name, but that's it. You don't know anything else. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, humorously, what's her face? Brady Cruz at Q13, I feel like is in the same problem that she desperately wants like a Fox News job.
Yeah, big time.
But she's in the wrong city. like nobody cares. Like nobody at Fox News would ever catch it because they would never be here to see it, right?
Right.
Like never got dead to be here to see it. But we all keep trying. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny. Carmen Best just falling so far short of our predictions, but doing the same stupid job. What do you think she's getting paid at King 5?
I'm sure a ton, but I mean, what is she gonna do? When are they gonna trot her out?
She'll probably be their like senior Mayday correspondent, where they bring her out like every April, 30th or whatever, so that she could tell everybody, hey, they have tactical nukes this year. I heard they're gonna use anthrax bombs, so Make sure that you put saran wrap all over your face and just duct tape it all around to keep from getting, chemical gas, exposed to chemical
God
gas
damn.
agents,
I
whatever.
forgot people did that.
Yeah, dude,
I
that
mean,
shit's
not on
real.
their face, but on their house.
Yeah, that was a real thing. For those of you listening to the show who are too young to remember, immediately after 9/11, there was an anthrax scare, and a bunch of people decided to take like 3 mil plastic and duct tape, and they duct taped every like opening in their house, which I'm sure is good for you as the person inside the
Oh,
like
yeah, definitely.
terrarium you just created. Yeah, holy shit. Yeah. I mean, that I feel like every May Day, that's like how the city responds to the impending events of May 1st, is like it's that level of just completely incoherent panic.
Yeah, I think you're totally right because I mean, up until the the protests of the summer, which obviously are necessary and ongoing, I think in this town the police basically weren't a thing in most people's minds.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when the Ferguson stuff happened here, and going to some of the Black Lives Matter events and stuff that were happening here, you would bring up like, hey, with people you'd be like in the march with, you'd be like, hey, Seattle PD like just shot somebody and killed somebody last week. Like we should care about that too. And and people would be like genuinely, I mean, like surprised by it. I mean, they
Yeah,
weren't like, hostile to hearing it, but they would be like genuinely shocked. It's like, yeah, the police department's pretty bad here. I remember when it used to be a shocker to tell people, this police department's under like federal fucking review. It has been for years. They used to make a shocking thing to tell people, and they'd be like, what?
yeah. Wait till you tell them why.
Yeah. Our guys? Yeah, I mean, pretty amazing. But,
Yeah, I think we're a shockingly illiterate, or maybe that's not the right term, but unaware group of
mhm.
citizens with respect to what's actually happening in our own city.
Well, I think the thing is that this is why we got by the way, where Carmen Best was going to go wrong, is that I feel people come to Seattle or, grow up in Seattle and they think they're in a real big city. They think they're in some sort of important metropole
Yeah,
and everything's going great. Like they grew up in the, maybe they grew up in the rural dying country town and they've moved to the shining city on the hill that is Seattle,
yeah,
and it does genuinely seem to surprise a lot of people that shit sucks ass here. that like poor people are treated like trash, that the cops do whatever the fuck they want. I remember people being really shocked when I first moved up here, because I'd tell people I was from Texas. They'd always like give me this really condescending, like, oh, you're so lucky to be here now and all this. And I'd always be like,
oh
this place
yeah.
is like this place is like just as racist and awful as Texas is, right? Like, just because you like to shine it up with bike paths doesn't fucking change it any goddamn way.
Yeah.
That it's like half the reason why you have bike paths is you don't want the poor people that you just kicked out of the neighborhood to come back and park on the side of the road, but yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, because we believe that this is some important metropole that is like again, like a real trend setting city, we thought that people would care about our dumb police chief, Carmen Best, or our dumb mayor, Jenny Durkin, or whatever. And it turns out, no, this is actually a backwater. Nobody gives a shit. in the country's moving on. Well, speaking of this cool backwater city,
Oh yeah.
my best friend Danny Westney
Mhm.
wrote a new article.
Oh, can't wait to
And
hear this one.
yeah, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing just because it's long and borderline illiterate, like most of this stuff.
Oh, I think I know this one. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So this article is called "Even for Easygoing Seattle, Living in the Parks Has Gone Too Far," and he has a photo of a park, like a children's play set in the park,
Yeah.
and off in the distance in the tree line you can see tents. Very scary. um So they're talking about the 6-acre John C. Little Senior Park, and basically the resident with whom he's talking with says that quote, it was the most heavily used park you can imagine. There aren't that many outside places for people to go down here. You know, I don't know that I can imagine a pretty heavily used park. So.
Yeah.
All right, but so I'll pick up right here. If Steele goes to the park now, it's to check on the construction. Starting in the summer, about 15 to 20 people started living in the park, and in addition to setting up more typical tents, have now built a wooden tarp-covered structure with a foundation, along
Awesome.
with a paving stone stairway cut into the hillside. So naturally, this sight of people improving their circumstances has Wesley in this one fucking infuriated. It's all within 20 feet of the children's play area, making residents wonder whether they've been cut off from City Hall. Quote, they brought in tools and dolly loads of scrap cabinet wood and plywood. Steele, who's 65, if you can believe it, says, I know they say the homeless have nowhere else to go, but how can you come into a kid's play area and just build your own structure? There's got to be something illegal about that. Doesn't that sum up like suburban mindset in the fucking best way?
That should be Seattle's motto. There's got to be something illegal about that. That is like the most Seattle thing anyone has ever said.
Oh yeah, it's just fucking amazing. And one, I mean, you know, via your own reporting, they're not in the place or whatever, but who cares even if they were. But I do love the like, there's pores that I have to look at. There has to be something illegal about that. Why can't they just put them in the oven? Like, I mean, just fucking astonishing. This city is so fucking awful. So Westy goes on. Technically, yes. The reason the campers haven't been cleared out of this park, though, or any of the other park encampments around the city, made some sense, at least at first. The city made an emergency decision back in March to allow camping in place due to coronavirus because indoor shelters were too crowded to comply with social distancing. Luckily, coronavirus isn't happening anymore. So these guys need to pack it and leave.
Problem solved, guys. Time to move on.
But even, and this is my favorite, but even homeless-friendly Seattle, which has long looked the other way at encampments in low-trafficked green belts, has never approved homeless camps in developed parts of city parks, such as children's play areas, for obvious reasons. So, one, yeah, I mean, again, we have so much Seattle thought here, which is one, there's got to be something illegal about that, but I love this homeless-friendly Seattle, the place that was sweeping homeless encampments during COVID. You know,
Yeah.
the place where the police. One of the like most shocking stories that I ever like picked up and read was in an issue of Real Change 5 years ago, and it was just a rundown of how many homeless people had died the year prior while living in the streets.
Yeah.
And one of the stories that it mentioned, and this is like a two-parter, one of the stories it mentioned was this guy who during the winter time, presumably to try and warm up, had climbed, and probably because the police had stolen all his fucking, you know, shit that he was sleeping with, had climbed inside I think he climbed in a recycling bin, like dumpster on Capitol Hill, and then had been crushed in the compactor of the truck and was found at the recycling facility, you know, dead, obviously. And the worst part about the whole story was they mentioned it was the second time that year that had happened. In homeless-friendly Seattle.
Yeah.
The SDOT, like, so SDOT, their construction equipment here, they had to change their rules of how they use construction equipment, particularly along the highway embankments and stuff like that, because over the course of like, I think it was 2011 and 2012, they had run over like 3 or 4 homeless people, killing them with construction equipment.
Oh my god.
And it's one of those things of like, I guess, I mean, this kind of cuts back to our story earlier. We talked about like Seattle really is this giant shithole.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, it's stuff like that I feel like nobody knows about this city,
Oh
right?
yeah, totally.
You know, that
Mhm.
you could call this homeless friendly Seattle. I mean, what a fucking nightmare. Yeah. That I love. Look the other way at encampments and low traffic greenbelts. As in, yes, we literally look away from the homeless anytime they exist and hope to God that they stop existing, yet here they are, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. There's got to be something illegal about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it I don't know. Like I am continually shocked by the callousness of the city. And to be fair, it's not different than most other cities in America. You know,
Right,
you find
right.
all the same stuff. It's just most other cities in America don't spend all their waking hours patting themselves on the back about how good they are.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it really pierces the veil of the what we think of ourselves. And that I
Hmm.
think that's part of why we don't confront it in an honest way. At least
Hmm.
that's one of my theories as a Seattleite. Um,
Yeah.
is that it's too challenging to everything that you thought about Seattle. It just bursts the bubble in an instant.
Yeah. I mean, you could choose to see it and see it for what it is, right? But then you would feel compelled to do something about it. Or
Yeah.
you could choose to retreat into fantasy, right? And
Yeah.
it's just really disturbing how many choose to retreat into fantasy.
Yeah,
Uh,
or ignorance. Who just don't even care at all.
yeah. Just specifically try not to know anything about it and all that. And it's. Well, here, let's read the last couple of
Okay.
paragraphs here. So, yes, what could the city have done instead other than, just allow these people to live? What could the city have done instead? We're nearly 8 months into the pandemic, and it sure seems like we should have more socially distanced shelter options by now, such as more
Mm.
motel rooms. Or remember that the field hospital in the stadium district, the military and FEMA set up in a couple of days. Uh, do that except do that except for poor Jesus Christ, sorry. This writing is awful. I apologize. Do that except for people living homeless. Building housing is great, but it takes years. False. Regardless, this is where we are right now. We've got an encampment digging in at a children's play area in a city park, situated in a city housing authority development specifically designed around reliance on that park. And the city's not only not doing anything about it, but sorry, New Holly, get used to it because it doesn't have any agreed upon framework for doing anything about it in the future either.
Oh, there's no process. So if I'm understanding Danny correctly, the problem isn't that we have over probably 12,000 people without homes. It's that a few of those people are near a park where children play.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, and there's no process to have them eradicated.
right.
And it's always funny because every one of these articles takes great pains to not consider for a second like why the city might have an enormous homelessness crisis, or why, like, none of these police, why the using the stick to beat the homeless has never worked to reduce homelessness.
Yeah.
It's just no, the homeless are there, the stick needs to be used,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, and
And
what are we in? Like, was it 2012 that the state of emergency was?
yeah, I believe it's 2012. I mean, basically, as long as the consent decree has existed, we've had a state of emergency around homelessness.
Hell yeah.
And it's gotten worse every year, basically, since then. Yeah, I mean, I love this. He says we're nearly 8 months into the pandemic, and it sure seems like we should have more socially distanced shelter options by now. It's like, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, dude.
That's actually been a major issue that people have brought up, and weird that Jenny Durkin especially doesn't want to do anything about that.
That is surprising.
Yeah, I would have thought she'd have been right on that. But yeah, very strange. I guess no reason to look into that in any way. Yeah, I mean, just fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's cool that you can get that published in the Times. Like,
Yeah. The city's major newspaper decided that was worth fucking putting in it, you know? Fucking amazing. Not only worth putting it, but that this dumb fucking, you know, hobbit, Danny Westney, deserves a paycheck probably more than the reporters get.
Oh yeah.
You know, to write this weekly, you know, fucking dumb bullshit.
Yeah, something he thought about in the shower, or like somebody
Yeah.
offhand mentioned to him how they had to see a homeless person at a camp or a park.
We were talking about deep fakes on the other episode, and like there has to be a way to just auto generate the why the homeless are bad column for the Seattle Times, right?
Oh yeah, at this point for sure.
Yeah, like I feel like it just auto generate, and you could just get rid of Danny Westneat altogether. Maybe then he can go live in the park. Yeah.
Danny Westneat's latest column is, "It's been 1 month since I lost my job at the Seattle Times."
He's just writing it on toilet paper in one of the like porta potties they dropped off and knocked over near the camp, and yeah, fucking piece of shit. All right, well, Danny Westneat did bring up one important issue that we should probably talk about a little bit,
Sure.
which is COVID-19. It's gone, so fuck the homeless. No, it's it turns out after checking my notes, it's getting worse. Oh no. Yeah, so there was a few articles last week about how the COVID crisis is getting worse. One little tidbit from an article from CNN I thought was good, not just because it brought up Seattle, but an updated forecast from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics. Hey, that's us.
Yeah.
Now projects the U.S. could top 389,000 COVID-19 deaths by February 1st.
Hell yeah. Scoreboard.
Hell yeah. And the latest ensemble forecast published by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows more than 20,000 Americans could die from the virus in just the next 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
So we're essentially hitting this new peak, right? I think they had just announced they're hitting 60,000 new cases a day nationally, which is, you know, about where we're at the last peak.
Yeah.
And on top of that, apparently, another thing that is bad is that as we head into winter, it's expected to get worse already. So the fact that it's getting bad now is not a good sign. They had on that same CNN article, they were interviewing somebody from I think the CDC or whatever about it, and he was just like, yeah, doesn't look good.
Oh man, cool.
Very cool, very cool.
It's gonna die in my home, I think. That's gonna rock.
So, I'm very excited for this pandemic that'll never fucking end ever. But there was the interesting story in the Seattle Times about a COVID outbreak at Harborview, which is always what you like to hear.
Yeah.
And I just thought there were some interesting segments in here that I think were just like worth kind of reading here.
Sure.
So Lynch, who's some character in the story, I don't know. Lynch said Harborview requires staffers wear masks at all times, wear eye protection when in close proximity to patients, and stay home when feeling ill. But the virus, quote, just preys upon any gap. After months of community transmission, Lynch said pandemic fatigue was grinding on staffers and visitors. He said visitors are required to wear masks, but sometimes remove them in family members' rooms. Quote, you remind them, you leave, and the masks are off again, Lynch said, adding that the hospital was moving toward a no strikes policy on visitor masking. Lynch said staffers are finding it more challenging to resist the urge to socialize and connect with colleagues. In Harborview's cafeteria, quote, we literally had to bolt the tables to the ground so people wouldn't eat together. You have to assume everyone has COVID and act that way. So I think this actually like highlights something that probably, you know, at least towards the beginning of coronavirus that nobody really thought about, which was the idea, like particularly at hospitals and stuff, but just everywhere in our jobs, there's literally no way you could maintain the like coronavirus like full status, full
Yeah.
alert
Yep.
posture forever, right? It's like physically impossible.
Right.
I mean, and I thought this thing about the staffers, right? It's more challenging to resist the urge to socialize, and they bolted the tables to the ground so they would stop eating together. Again, it just shows how this country's like complete inability to handle this crisis has spawned these horrifying new vectors for the disease that you wouldn't have even considered before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit. Well, they go on to say that, hospitals across the state have struggled with outbreaks. They list a few that have had large outbreaks, and then have this interesting little bit at the end where the Seattle Times submitted a public disclosure request to the Department of Health earlier this month for reports and data about outbreaks in healthcare settings. The agency said it would provide records by July of next year.
What?
There's two possible answers for that, which one is that they are not really keeping the records. There's nothing to hand over.
Yeah.
But two, everything is so bad they don't want to hand it over, and they're like stalling as long as possible.
My God.
It just kind of gets into sort of what I wanted to maybe like finish out talking about, which is just when the fuck is this COVID thing gonna end? Because we seemingly are completely incapable of doing anything required to stop this outbreak. So are we just gonna live with this forever?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I was talking about this with a friend. Of course, not in person.
Yeah. You couldn't talk in person. Your computers had actually been bolted to your your houses, so you couldn't talk together.
We're in a cage, but it feels like we're just doing the herd immunity thing without saying we're doing the herd immunity thing. Which is, if you're not familiar with this, basically that everyone needs to get it, and of course, that means some percentage of people will die, but hopefully it means that some level of immunization or inoculation will occur. And that's what it feels like is happening because the government's not taking any strong stance on any of this. Lots of states are doing whatever they can as these numbers are ticking up to maintain the level of openness that they're at now because they don't want to go back, which can't possibly be good if we are headed to a second wave. Which, yeah, I mean, it's terrifying. It really is horrific and awful. And I don't know what we do. Just stay inside for 3 years or something? I don't.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea of like the herd immunity concept when it kills like 2% of the people that get it in a country with 360 million people. I mean, you're talking 7 million dead.
Yeah.
A fact like so horrifying to even consider, but it really is the only thing that makes any goddamn sense at this point, right? I mean,
it's what we're doing. It really is what we're doing. If we're not going to say it is, but it's what's happening.
Yeah, and I thought what was so interesting about the Harvard Review article too is it showed that if you're not going to build out the healthcare capacity, which both parties have specifically said we're not going to do,
yeah,
if you're not going to do anything about any intervention into people's lives so they can actually like social distance, stay home. Like if you're not going to shut down the economy or whatever so that people can actually stay home and give the virus time to kind of like winnow out a little bit.
Right.
If you're not going to do any of these things, then yeah, I mean, even at the level of, in the hospitals where they literally are watching people die, they're not going to be able to maintain this posture of alert, right? At the hospital where they're literally watching people be intubated, where they're literally watching people die from this disease, if even they're having a hard time maintaining this life of total robotic anonymity and alienation, how is it going to work at any company? And I can tell you because I go into places around here and I see it doesn't. Like,
yeah. Well, you're totally right, and I think that we are at the point in time, because I think it's been something like 6 months since lockdown started, or maybe it's 7, um, where people are starting to put their toes in the water and kind of feel out what they can get away with. Like,
Yeah.
people are clamoring for some kind of return to a normal life. And like you said, absent any direction or absent any guidance, real guidance or help from the government, that's
Mhm.
going to mean that people are just increasingly playing chicken. And given, we've talked about this before, but given our predilection to like solipsism and not believing anyone else in the world exists but us, that doesn't really do great things, because we don't care that 250,000 people are dead, because they're not us. And
Mhm.
until it's us, like, it doesn't matter. So more and more people are going out doing things, and that's not gonna it's not gonna help keep people alive. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, I mean, this is sort of my like closet fear about this election. Because I like a complete idiot watched both the presidential debate and the vice presidential debate. Uh
bad
and I'm,
Brian.
and I'm now dumber for it.
Yeah.
I haven't voted for president since 2000, and I watched that. Like, what kind of fucking? I'm a sicko. Like, we were talking about sickos at the other show. I am a fucking sicko,
You are going to become the Joker, I think.
basically. But watching that and listening to both parties basically say we have literally no plan for COVID at all. Like, if you watch that and had any thought that any of these idiots are going to do anything about this, or that any of them have any plan even to do anything about this, we were watching two different things. Like,
Yeah.
they have nothing. That was the message of the debates, was they literally have nothing. And and they're all out of ideas. But my sort of closet fear is that if Biden gets elected, because COVID is the Trump disease,
Yeah.
once Trump is gone, the disease will go with it, right? Like, they'll just
Yeah.
pretend it doesn't exist. They'll
Yeah.
become exactly like the fucking MAGA people, and they'll just say, no, it's done. No COVID. Like, they won't be able to acknowledge, like, I mean, we'll probably be in the middle of another huge fucking, surge or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
when Biden is inaugurated, and they'll just pretend it's not happening, just like the Trump people do. Because really, all any because their mind is so foreclosed on actually doing anything about
Right.
this,
Yeah.
it'll just be, well, our guy's in, so it's not a problem anymore. You know, it was
Yeah.
only to be used when Trump was there. Now that our guy, just like, by the way, just like the kids in cages at the border, when none of these
Yeah.
people gave a shit when fucking
Yep.
Obama did it, and all of them are gonna stop caring the fucking second Biden's in office. Just like, everything else that's awful about the Trump administration, which is really just America.
Yeah.
Um, they're just gonna stop caring. And that's when it'll really go ape shit, because it'll just be like full, because all the Republicans will still want to open up their states, but
Right.
then all the Dem governors will be given permission to do it too. And
Yeah.
it'll just be like, fuck it, who cares? It only kills poor people anyways.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
full opening.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're right. I think there is probably even some psychological component to this, where it has been so tied to Trump and Trump's administration that,
Hmm.
given the back to brunch brain of the liberal, it probably will just be out of sight, out of mind. And like you said, the fact that most people of means are just holed up in castles having people deliver them things.
Hmm.
So it still is fairly abstract to even them.
Yeah, I mean, because you could have, as we've already seen, hundreds of thousands of dead, and
Yeah.
still have people that it's not affected them in any like personal way, right?
Yeah. I mean, like 250,000 we've got to be
Yeah,
at, I think today, probably.
yeah.
We were at like 220 something the last time I looked, and that was a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, the UW was probably being conservative. I don't think they're being like panicky or whatever, or
Yeah.
Pollyannish, or whatever, when they
Right.
said 400,000 dead by February, basically
Yeah.
by Biden's inauguration.
Right.
That's probably true. I mean, that's almost certainly just in the fucking cards. And it's it's an astonishing number that's like impossible to wrap your head around, which will also help. Like, help
Yeah.
people just pretend it doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Yep.
Again, also, it's just like the Iraq War when I remember 4 years in the Iraq War when there was a big report that the Iraq War probably killed 600,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and people they have no way to metabolize that, and to this day, people will look at you like you're from outer space when you'll tell them stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that war probably killed 1 million people, in
Yeah.
Iraq and the surrounding area.
Yeah. Totally.
And it, because the number's so large, they just write it out of hand. And again, just like we talked about earlier, just thinking about it it's too much. So
Yeah.
better just push it away. And I think COVID's gonna end up in that same spot. I mean, this is sort of my fear all along with this election, and the out to brunch crowd, which by the way are proving me right every fucking day on social
I know
media.
It
But my
sucks.
yeah, I didn't want to say it on the show because I didn't want to hear all the fucking complaining about it or whatever. But my thing about like Trump and Biden is I think for the left, like, a Trump election might actually help because at least the libs will continue to be upset about bad things. Whereas the second Biden gets elected, there will be a universal front of Democrats and Republicans who think that everybody on the border should be put in a cage or killed, and that that our imperial policy is good, and that honestly nothing should be done about COVID or healthcare.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is bad. Like watching the way libs acted during the Obama administration, I mean, it really was, their attitude was as bad as any MAGA chud. They just didn't care. Yeah, they didn't care about anything. It really was astonishing. They had no fucking scruple. They just did not give a shit.
Well, because we thought we'd all been raptured.
Yeah.
And it's the Seattleification thing, like we were talking about earlier, where you just kind of are like, I'm living in the golden age. Everything's great. Everything's running itself. Everything's good. I don't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
Which of course is preposterous, but very pervasive. And like, to your point, everything that I have seen and the way that Biden is running this campaign, he is running to go back. That is what they're doing. Just want to go back. They're not talking about what's ahead. They're talking about going back to what it was. And that's what it was to them.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, basically what Trump did, and this is what I'm going to say something positive about Donald Trump here. What Donald Trump did was he pulled back the mask of America, right? And everything that is, people had to look at it. And just like in a Lovecraft novel, they only saw a piece of it, right? They don't even fucking know. They just saw a piece. But also in Trump's like visage, in his appearance and his attitude, he is every bit as disgusting and awful as this fucking country is.
Yeah.
And people, instead of saying, wow, what a fucking horrifying place this empire at the end of history is. What a terrifying thing capitalism has created in its own image, right? Instead of doing that, they all just said, please close the curtains. I don't want to look anymore. Right? And whenever you go on social media, that's it, man. Like, all the way down is just, oh man, it's gonna be so great when Biden gets elected. I could just go to sleep again. And it's like, what is wrong with you?
This is perfect, man. It's like everyone wants to eat the sausage. They don't want to know how it's made.
Yeah, basically, right? And it's one of those things that, I mean, this country's gonna get worse. No matter who wins in November. It's gonna get crueler. It's gonna get meaner all this stuff. And the big thing is like I said, this is my fear, is that every single lib is just gonna close the curtain and pretend they don't see it again.
Yeah.
And
that's what they're telling us they're gonna do too. That's what they want. They want to go to sleep. They want to hibernate again for 2,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, like I said, it's not idle speculation on my part. They keep saying it over and over again. Yeah, and I mean, it's this thing that part of what's upsetting about it is like, I know people that are going to be negatively impacted, including myself, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's really horrifying to know that we're all going to still be alone. Yeah, and it's upsetting. I mean, there I can't. There was this report that came out. I mean, people knew that this is what had happened under the Obama administration. They even like formalized it in a report a couple of years ago. From I think it was from I can't remember. From these, I think from the People's Policy Institute or whatever. That Obama oversaw the largest destruction of Black wealth since the destruction of the Reconstruction Bank. Right, like again, it's these things that just nobody wants to look at. Like I knew tons of people were thrown out of their fucking houses after 2008 and were given nothing. I had a guy telling me the story. He worked for he essentially worked for a foreclosure farm for a large home, loan industry, but is in Dallas, and he was just on the phone all day essentially processing foreclosures and doing the paperwork and stuff. And he would tell me about how they were given ice cream socials for meeting like foreclosure goals and shit like that. I mean, that was the world of Obama. Now, it didn't get better under Trump. It's just as mean and cruel and everything. But people had to actually look at it, and it's just very upsetting that we're going back to this, let's just pretend it doesn't exist mode. It's awful.
Yeah, I agree completely, and it's something that's really bothered me about obviously what happened to Bernie, and then the campaign that Biden has run, because like you said, Trump is created in our image. We're looking at a mirror, whether we want to admit that or not. And I think this particular moment, especially given the pandemic, this is a very unique opportunity to talk about the future that we want to have, not the past that we miss, because that's what he's telling us. Nothing will get better.
Yeah.
We're just going to go back to how it was.
Yeah, I mean, and think about how insane it is that, we're in the middle of a pandemic where the United States has uniquely in the world failed at protecting its citizenry or whatever from the pandemic. It is easily going to have the highest death toll of any country on the planet. We're already talking 250,000 dead, and both candidates are running against any sort of healthcare, against having any healthcare for people, expanding healthcare in any way. I mean, astonishing. Well, I wanted to add, when we talk about like trying to imagine the world that could be, on the same day that the UW announced that we're probably gonna have 400,000 dead by February, Jay Inslee also extended the moratorium on evictions, which was about to lapse for the state of Washington. Extended it to December 31st. So happy New Year's, everybody. But I think what's really crazy about this is in his official release, right? He says, he has this bold header, moratorium on evictions, and it has some bullet points, right? And it says the extension makes modifications to the prior moratorium, including first bullet point, clarifying that tenant behavior which is imminently hazardous to the physical safety of other persons or the premises is included among the existing permissible reasons for seeking to evict a tenant.
Oh, boo.
Point number 2, authorizing landlords and property owners to send advance notice of future rent increases in limited circumstances, as long as the notice clearly provides that the rent increase will not go in effect till after the moratorium.
Out of here. Are you? Oh my God.
And then the third bullet point is just that there has to be better communication between landlords and tenants. And the fourth one is requiring that any 60-day notice to vacate if an owner intends to occupy or sell the premises must be in the form of an affidavit signed under the penalty of perjury. So he extended the moratorium on evictions, which absolutely needs to happen, but at the same time basically strengthened the landlord's hold over the tenant in the process, right?
Yeah, undoes any protection, saying, oh, you can still be evicted.
Yeah, he basically was like, here's some Swiss cheese to this fucking law where you can crawl your fucking, ghoulish, slimy ass through it to fucking throw your tenants out in the street in the middle of a pandemic. If you want to. If you value money as a landlord.
As a landlord American.
Yeah, if you value money over human life, that rare thing for landlords, here's your way around it, right?
Yeah. Chilling.
And again, Yeah, and I mean, this is Jay Inslee is being held up, right, as the, the lib mayor or lib governor par, excellence or whatever,
Yeah,
right? But I
that
mean, yeah, this shit is just, I mean, it's fucking disgusting. We should be talking about like housing being a human right and completely
yeah,
remake, because
yeah,
the housing system is gonna collapse. There's no stopping that at this point.
yep.
So we could just remake. I mean, there's so many things about COVID. It's gonna collapse so many awful, horrible aspects of our economy that we could just decide not to do anymore. Right? Like we can decide that a completely parasitic fucking leech like landlord class, like sucking the blood out of everybody who actually labors in the society, is bad and shouldn't exist.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could allow them to do all the things that a moratorium ostensibly was protecting them from.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we could just put some nice little loopholes in the moratorium to make sure that their sacred property rights are never, forgone for just human fucking decency or survival.
Well, this is the
Uh,
classic having it both ways of trying to be the good guy and the bad guy at the same, or the good guy and the reasonable guy at the same time.
yeah. Yeah. And weird how the reasonable guy is always the one that's like, hey, we got to make sure rich people have more money.
Yeah,
that's,
exactly.
that's the only reasonable position. And, this sort of ties into a lot of other stuff that came out this week about, how much more money Jeff Bezos has made because of the
Jesus
pandemic.
Christ.
Well, at the same time, he's authorized warehouse workers at Amazon to where they can now ask for up to 50% of their pay as an advance.
Yep. Hell yeah.
You know, I mean, again, I just don't see how we come out of this pandemic, one, without just stadiums full of dead people, but also how we don't come out of this pandemic is just so much meaner and crueler society.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Completely. I mean, I think you're right, because there was also that story going around that's saying 8 million people have been pushed into poverty basically by the
mhm,
lapse of the, what was it, the CARES Act, the,
yeah, the CARES Act.
yeah, the very modest stimulus and support that was granted for at the beginning of all this.
Yeah. Well, and it's this insane thing too, because basically, like, the Trump administration's tried to like shove some sort of new stimulus through as a bold, a bid clearly to just get reelected, right?
Right.
And it is astonishing. I mean, that Wolf Blitzer, you saw the Wolf Blitzer interview with
Yes.
Pelosi,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But basically, I mean, one, it was so funny watching the libs on Twitter try and pretend that this is anything other than Pelosi blocking it because she thinks it'll help Biden's election chances. But I mean, some of them would even know, like, would point out the real politic of it all, and would talk about, like, see, she's a genius, and like nobody considering the like just utter fucking cruelty of playing with people's lives like this
Yeah.
to elect a fucking dementia addled fucking 80-year-old psychopath, right, and Joe Biden
Yeah.
to the fucking presidency, right? Like that's the prize we get for throwing people into the street, dropping them into poverty, probably killing a significant number of them in the process.
Oh yeah.
The prize is Joe fucking Biden, the architect of almost everything that's wrong in America, as fucking president. And yeah, and I mean, what a just cruel fucking game of politics to be playing. And I mean, and really astonishing too.
Yeah.
That I mean,
Completely. That interchange was so bizarre. She
mhm,
was so condescending to him. And it's not like Wolf Blitzer is cool and good, but he was
yeah,
just saying reasonable things like, people are having a real bad time.
yeah.
You might want to do something for them.
Yeah, I mean, he basically was like, "Hey, there's like millions of people being dropped into poverty by this. Like, yeah, shouldn't you be doing anything to help them?" And it's very instructive that her response was to tell him to go fuck himself.
Yeah,
You know,
basically.
and that
He didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, and she's like, "Don't worry, we'll feed them." And it's like, "Yeah, I've been to California. I've seen the way you feed the homeless in California. You know, the place where a judge had to step in because you slammed your prisons so fucking full of poor people that they were stacked on top of each other like a fucking slave ship. And you fucking had like literally a fucking federal judge. The like some of the cruelest, dumbest fucking people on the planet are federal judges. And even they looked at that and were like, this is disgusting and inhuman. You can't do this anymore. That's and she's like, no, we are helping people. Don't worry. We got it.
Yeah, doesn't it feel like we're being helped? Every day I feel like I'm being helped.
Just fucking unbelievable.
And I still, yeah, you know,
Like,
that's the thing, right?
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
you still have a place to live. Imagine not having a job at all, not having a place to live, because lots of states, under my understanding, have started evicting people. I mean, people are getting evicted. Where the fuck are they going to go?
Yeah, and I mean, and shout out to groups. I mean, look, vote for whoever the fuck you want to. Just don't pretend like it matters, right? Do whatever you want. Write Grimace on there. It's going to have the exact same impact on your life as doing anything else on your ballot. But groups like the KC Tenants Unit, who this week basically went up and they shut the doors of the eviction court before it could open. And they just locked up the fucking eviction court and took over the stairs so that fucking the awful ghoul-like judges and shit couldn't go in there and start fucking evicting people. And they actually forced them to shut the court down for at least the week.
Yeah, that rocked.
And it's like, that's all we have at this point. Like, again, no politician's going to help you. That's all you have, all right? Like, you have to support those people. You have to become one of those people.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now, you know? There has to be anti-eviction committees. There has to be, you know, that help people move their shit back in. There has to be people to threaten the fucking sheriff's department when the sheriff's department tries to come and shoot you for not leaving the fucking house, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna get fucking ugly, and you know, you just, as always, the mayor, you just worry like, what's anybody gonna do about it, right? And you know. People see a certain portion of the population seems very content to do nothing about it and just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, and a lot of that suffering is invisible to them and remains invisible to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is we're so segregated by, you know, not just like race in America, we're segregated by class too. Right. So, you know, you could live your whole life in Seattle and never know that there's, you know, people being thrown out on the fucking street, you know, because you don't live by rental units, right? You know, Jenny Durkin, this is not a problem that's going to affect her, right? You know?
Right.
You know, maybe it should. Maybe people should form encampments at her house or something.
Then that would really upset Sally Bagshaw, though, Brian. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, I know. You know, imagine, I mean, you know, all the stuff that we're talking about, a lot of it, things happening directly in Seattle or directly in the state of Washington. And Sally Bagshaw is complaining that somebody spray painted a dick outside her house. Like, first off, there's spray painted dicks like down the street from my house, and there's no political significance to them. They're just dicks. It's fine. We've all lived.
Oh, God.
Yeah, fucking amazing. Well, I think we're going to end on just maybe one last quick story just to try and brighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because this story really made me laugh when I first saw it, which is our state lieutenant governor.
Cyrus.
Yeah, Cyrus left the state and moved to California. While still lieutenant governor. And that honestly fucking rules. This sort of nicely ties up our discussion about Seattle not being the metropole that we think it is.
Yeah, for all anyone knows, we're just raising Bigfoots out here, like
pretty much. But I love, because it's not just that the lieutenant governor, while still in office, moved out of state. It's so funny that he moved to California, the arch nemesis of Washington and Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Like, just, I couldn't be right better. I mean, it's equally funny that he moved to go to seminary school, which is very, very amusing. But yeah, just very good. Somebody asked me, don't they have seminaries in Washington? I'm sure they do. But who would want to go to one?
Yeah, but those are
Holy
all run by cryptids and
yeah,
vampires.
yep. Oh my god. That's awesome. So, critical support for Cyrus as he moves. Uh I hope the best for him in California. I didn't see where he's going in California, but have fun there, bud. All
I'm sure that he will.
right. All right. So we don't have any new patrons. Um so that's it. I mean, what else can we say? You feeling better after this conversation, Colin?
I'm feeling about the same. I've said it before. It's either a wear the vest day or a find me on the trail missing my head kind of day. And there's more of those lately.
Yeah, no kidding. It's probably not a good sign that like particularly horror movies and stuff have really trended towards this not even apocalyptic but very like cult theme and stuff. Like I feel like cults
Yeah.
have been very big lately. Even a lot of like cosmic horrors started to come back,
Mhm.
and I feel like that can't be a good sign for where people are psychologically.
Well, I mean, I've said it before. I feel like Jenny Durkin, like the liberal machine is kind of a cosmic horror. And I guess we said it on the show. It's just like
Mhm.
it's a thing beyond your human understanding that drives you insane.
Yeah, pretty much. I know it's done it to me, so
Yeah.
well, I guess on that note, we should probably get back to our Zoom meetings where we're just jerking it in the office, thinking about the
Oh,
Supreme Court.
you were doing that the entire time we taped?
Yeah, that's the hidden secret of how we do these Zoom meetings. We're like like apes in the zoo, where we're just like pushing our genitalia at the camera to like threaten the other.
Now this is podcasting.